We're coming to you from the CoinDesk podcast studio presented by BitGo. Founded in 2013 with the first institutional-grade Bitcoin wallet, BitGo is the gold standard in custody, staking, and settlement. Today, BitGo supports over 800 coins and processes 20% of all Bitcoin transactions by value. Check them out at bitgo.com.
Hey there, it's Sam Ewan from CoinDesk. Oh, back here with Leah Cullen Butler and some amazing guests, both Teana and Erik Voorhees from Venice AI. We're so excited to learn about this new project that you guys have. So first, I would love one of you just to tell us, what is Venice? Why did you decide that this needs to exist in the world? And also, how does it relate to kind of the blockchain industry in relation to other AI projects that often are trying to not have transparency and openness in their systems?
Yeah, well, Venice is a AI chat app, like a ChatGPT. You can do text, image, code with it. The main difference is that it does not spy on you, so it's private. All the things that you say aren't being warehoused by a centralized company, and it is not censoring the answers that you get back. So it is private, it is permissionless, it uses open source models, and that's the main distinguishing factor.
Was there, I guess, what was wrong that you guys were seeing with the existing AI, the llamas of the world and the ChatGPTs and what Google's doing that made you decide this was something that needed to exist in the world?
I personally don't want all of my conversations with an AI to be stored forever by a central party to be offered up to the government as soon as they ask for it. Anyone who doesn't have a problem with that might not find Venice that interesting, but anyone who cares about privacy, not just for today, but like over the entire lifetime that they're using these things, we're offering something materially different. And anyone who has used these systems and seen how the answers come back in a very distorted, biased, censored way, if that bothers you, try Venice out, and you might find it to be a little refreshing.
And Teana, what about you? Because you've had an incredible career influencing the development of robust and balanced regulatory systems on the crypto side. What brought you to work in AI?
Yeah, I think the technology is really important, and the potential for humanity to increase their knowledge and understanding is exponential. So that's really exciting, but equally at the same time, I think there is this precipice that we're at around, I mean, I don't even want to dive into the regulatory implications, but there's a lot of decisions that are made in the name of safety, right? So there's a lot of permissioning going on. And with any new technology, I think if you start to put those rules in place too soon before you really know what you're talking about, or the risks that are being identified aren't necessarily balanced with the risks that exist today. So generative AI and AGI are two very different things, right? And so I think that there is the real potential here for developers and for people like Erik and I to build solutions that address some of those risks in a way that demonstrates what good looks like. So around privacy and censorship, that then don't create even a bigger problem that we need to regulate for later.
So there's a quote that I've been repeating to people all week, which I read before I came here, which is the idea that, and it's from the Counterterrorism Task Force in Europe, that 90% of all of the information on the internet will be synthetically generated by 2026. Now, I don't know if that's fully accurate, but I think we can all see where this is going to go. So I also keep thinking a lot about the need for some sort of proof of humanity within these systems, where we know that the things we're seeing, audio, video, text, are either generated by people who we can verify that they're real, or being very transparent that this is an AI system creating it, and ideally we should know where they got that information from. How do you guys approach this idea of synthetic information versus human-driven information, and is there sort of a right balance as we go into a world where trust becomes hard in all the information that we see in our daily lives?
We as Venice are not trying to solve the problem of attestability in authenticity. It's a problem. Society will need to figure out various ways to handle it. We're not trying to solve that problem. I guess where we would come in, however, is that if there is one or a few large centralized AI companies and they say something is true, how do you know that that's right? You know, I don't think most people want to live in a world where there's one authority of truth. That sounds very Orwellian to me. That sounds very dangerous. Truth is a process by which humanity is constantly challenging and arriving at new understanding. So Venice is basically an alternative to centralized intermediaries of knowledge. And we think that's important in AI, just as decentralized money is important. Same kind of, same vibe.
And Sam, I think the other thing is that you say that it's going to be synthetic information, and maybe it is generated through some type of, machine. But today, those machines are only generating information that a human prompts them to generate. So it's not that the machines are creating synthetic information on their own, right? So I think that there is this balance of we're still in control of what these machines are producing. And if you are using centralized black box mechanisms that you don't really know how they've been tuned, what their system prompt allows for, and where those biases might lie, everything is biased. We're never going to go away from bias, right? So when you're using open source models, then at least you have an idea of how they've been trained, what information they have, and the ability to potentially tune those to your own preferences. And so I think that transparency gives a little bit more comfort around being able to trust the information. But, one of the things that Erik says a lot is this is not a truth machine, right? If you get something out of this that you don't think sounds right, you need to keep digging and look at other resources as well.
Yeah, I think most people are not scared enough of the phenomenon in which either a malicious human actor or a malicious AI actor wants to do something sinister. If it has all the information about you that you've ever shared with an AI over years, it will know every personal, intimate detail of your life. The ability for damage from that knowledge in one centralized place that a person can never get back once they've given it away, I think is unacceptable. And so people need alternatives. Not that everyone will care about the privacy, but for those who do, they need a way to implement it.
But Leah, back to your question. If you couple everything that you put into these AI tools, right? You're asking questions, and typically it's a very personal experience, right? You're seeking oftentimes. And you could be talking with this in a way that maybe you don't feel comfortable talking with a friend, for example, right? There are, AI therapists, for example. If you couple that information with your financial information, with your location information, with all of this other data that's out there, and you're able to triangulate that, it's not just where you went, who you went with, and how you spent your money, but it's also what you think. And what goes on in our brains is personal and private, right? So I think that we are used to giving away our data in exchange for services. But I think that now that this data potentially is about who we fundamentally are as people, we need to be very careful with that information.
I love what you just said there about how we're used to giving our data away. Like in Web 2, that is really the business model. So how are you actually going to bring this issue to, I guess, a mainstream audience? I mean, like, we're here at Consensus. Everybody here understands the need for decentralization and the need for privacy. How do you see, how are you going to take that narrative to a mainstream audience and get them on board with this?
I think anyone that has tried Venice and has asked it a question that might be controversial and asks that of one of the leading chat systems, they will see immediately the value of the lack of censorship. So will we be able to get people to care about privacy? I don't know. Some do, some don't. But when people get back answers that feel paternalistic and belittling, or they feel like there's some kind of forbidden knowledge that they're not allowed to have, and then they try Venice and they're like, oh yeah, actually this is how machine intelligence is actually supposed to work. I think it'll be self-evident to them, and we just need to get it in front of people, and it'll be pretty clear.
I also think as some of the big tech projects continue to do what I think is like crazily, blatantly nuts, right? Like Slack a couple of weeks ago said, oh, we're going to start scraping all your company information. That's cool, right?
Really? I didn't know that. Wow.
And they did it in a like tweet. I mean, it was very kind of subversive. So if you didn't see the tweet, you wouldn't have known that you could opt out of this.
Wow.
Or, you know, Microsoft's new product, and I understand why they're building it, but they're positioning it that we're going to create this curated AI experience for you based on taking screenshots of everything you do every 30 seconds. And so for some people, they might think, that's amazing. This thing's really going to know me. But I just think this is a surveillance tool, right? And I don't know that I want anyone to know me that well, right? It's certainly not a piece of technology. I'm no longer in control. So I think that for people that think that that's creepy, maybe you don't necessarily know you care about privacy, but you know you don't want to like pee with the door open, right? You like shut the door. Things are private.
And you guys, what I really like about even the way you positioned the launch was very openly, you don't need an account. Like you can come and just try and play. So tell us about how like the tiers work and how do you protect the privacy of someone who is wanting to try the system? Is it all through a wallet-based technology? Is it a different type of sign-on? How are you ensuring trust in the privacy world?
Yeah, so the way to protect people's privacy is to not take their information in the first place.
Right.
So the fundamental mechanism in Venice is that when someone sends in a prompt, text or image or code generation, that's going through an encrypted proxy server to a decentralized GPU that does the processing and sends the result back through the same encrypted proxy server. It's never held on Venice's servers at all. That's the bulk of it. If someone wants to sign up, they can just use like a dummy email if they want. They don't even need to sign up with an account if they really want to be like no email even. And if someone wants to pay in crypto, they can do that too. So it doesn't matter where they're from in the world, like they can be as anonymous as they want. We don't want to know who they are. We don't need to know who they are. And we give people privacy not through some like 15-page privacy policy that promises how we will respect their data. We just don't take it in the first place.
And I love this statement that you guys put out. I'm just going to read it, which is the only way to respect user privacy is to not violate it in the first place. To what you guys were just talking about, we've been violated for decades now with every big tech company in the world. That I think people are like numb to the fact that we are being scraped and sold every single day that we exist. So what do you think has to happen on the larger internet scale for this? I mean, it's wonderful that you guys are putting this in place, but the minute someone goes off to somewhere else, they're back in that funnel of being marketed and marketed to. And I guess I wonder if you just have thoughts of what could we collectively as a community here do better? Is it about asking our systems to be more respectful of our privacy, demanding those, or is it about like what you guys are doing is just building our own?
I think we don't need to do the advocacy. What's going to cause people's minds to change is when the abuses become increasingly obvious. And I think that's inevitable. As this data gets warehoused and centralized, the incentives to abuse it will grow and grow and grow. That abuse will continue. And over time, you know, maybe it takes a whole generation, but people will come to learn that like they shouldn't give up their information without at least thinking about it, right? Like sometimes it's fine to share your data, but at least be thoughtful about it. And we're going to provide an alternative. I think we only win if we actually make a product, however, that like everyone loves, right? So like everyone likes to say they like privacy, but if our product's inferior, we're not going to get customers. So we're building an app that when people have used it, they immediately love it. You know, it gives them like most of the benefits of what the big firms are doing, but without the censorship and those who care about privacy, that's just like an added benefit.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. When you look at behavior, we all know that behavior is hard to change, right? People just do what they do. And to get somebody to change their behavior is really, really hard. And I think that's one of the things that has been a challenge for crypto, right? You have to completely change your relationship with money, how you think about it, how you think about sovereignty. And for a lot of people, that's like a couple steps too far. They just want it to be easy and simple. And I think the beauty of Venice is that it is really low friction. It is very intuitive. It is equally on par with a number of the other experiences that you can have that cost a lot more and are monetizing your data and will give it to the government if they ask for it. I think what's fundamentally different about this, people have been indoctrinated for lifetimes to have the relationship with money that they do. And we learn about banking and saving and all that stuff from our parents. And so you're having to unlearn behavior when you kind of switch into, a decentralized sovereign money, principle. But AI is brand new, right? And so hopefully if we start giving people good alternatives now, then they just start on that path and we don't have to kind of transition them from an unprivate service to a private service. The second thing I think is we are loosey-goosey with our, posts on Facebook and, our vacation pictures. But I think when people really understand that this AI has the access to the way that we think, and we can be incepted by some of the responses that we get. It can change the way we think, which changes ultimately who we are. That's a little different than just your data, right? That's your person. And so hopefully the privacy thing will start to stick with people. And I think that as some of the other companies have some faux pas, like for me, the Gemini thing, when the images wouldn't, create Caucasian people, I mean, it was just so stark. And it was mainstream news, right? Crypto hasn't been mainstream news. I think AI is in a slightly different position.
On that, just thinking with this focus on open source and privacy, the Web 2 business model is really entrenched in terms of, scraping data and selling it to advertisers. That's how we make money. So with these new business models, we need to find new ways of being able to monetize. So how are you thinking about that?
Ours is super easy. You can use it for free. If you want the advanced features, it's $49 a year.
That's it.
Sign me up.
We're not going to sell your data to anyone.
Thank goodness. My final question for you guys is, we're also a lot of conversation around this conference about AI agents doing actions on our behalves, non-playable characters in metaverse games. How do we ensure that even our relationships with those types of entities can remain private? I'm just worried about what happens when, even though you guys are building a system that maintains your own identity, your own privacy in your own identity, that we're going to be soon interacting with a lot of other AI entities, whether we know it or not, who might be still trying to do the same scraping of us through conversation, through looking at the output. Is there a world where we need to think about us being able to give permissions to other AI entities in the future?
You should always be careful who you're talking with. Right? This is a very fundamental human thing. That issue is not new to AI or to, made-up characters in a game. Humans manipulate each other, right? You should always take responsibility for the things that you convey, and you should assume that you live in a world where people and machines will try to take advantage of you in big and small ways. That's just part of the natural competitive environment, and to just take responsibility for yourself. It's not that big of a deal as long as the AI isn't forcing you to talk to it. That gets pretty scary. But if you have the agency to decide when to talk and what, then all that matters is to whom are you talking. And in Venice's case, you were talking to a structure that is private and isn't going to store all your information forever. So that's really the goal.
All right. Thank you guys so much. This has been Venice founder Erik Voorhees, Chief Operating Officer Teana Baker-Taylor. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We hope you have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.